So next, we have the incredible Matt Ingwalson. Matt's the VP and Creative Director at IMM. Matt oversees all the interactive work for Chili's Grill and Bar, including social media, display advertising, content partnerships, and online video. He also chips in on a few other clients and new business efforts, ensuring that the work IMM produces is powerful enough to create action. He's a CSU grad and a lifelong Denver Boulder resident, and somewhere around 150 AD/CD and Ad Club Denver awards to his name. Wow. So I'm not worthy, you're not worthy. Here's Matt.
Thanks. That was awesome. You broke the seal on a lot of really important things, right? You dropped the evening's first F-bomb. I think that's probably not gonna be the last. You had a Matrix reference in there. I might have one of those coming up too, so hopefully all the other speakers remember their Matrix references. And also we just said a lot of really smart things. Well, I'm here to talk about something just a little bit different. I'm here to talk about something, the moment when smart becomes dumb. I'm here to talk about big data, and you three account people up there and some of the clients in the room. This is probably kind of exciting for you. A lot of the creative people are probably looking at their watches and they're thinking like, is there beers in the lobby yet? Like maybe I can go grab one while this guy is up here. Please just sort of like hang with me for a second. Because in the next 20 minutes, here's what I'm gonna cover. First, I'm gonna cover the facts about big data. I'm gonna talk to you about 3 lies big data can tell you. They're gonna screw up your creative briefs and therefore your work. Next, I'm gonna cover some theories. I'm gonna show you how to avoid some of these big data traps that people fall into. And then finally, we're gonna fulfill the 99U mantra of putting ideas into action, of making them happen, by actually walking through a little case study and seeing how you can use data, get to a better brief, and better work. But first, in addition to our 99U local hashtag Denver hashtag sort of thing up there, we also use the hashtag IMMDataCreate to help IMM get data about this talk. Okay, who is IMM? Well, it's an agency in Boulder. As Jeff said, that's where I work. We are an interactive agency, and we handle duties for national clients like Chili's and Roku and Straight Talk Wireless. And who is this we? Well, typically I have a partner in this talk. She helped me put this together. This is a picture of Kelly. She's our Director of Customer Value Management. She is both nicer and smarter than me. However, she's in Hawaii right now, so me is what you get, and I don't think she's missing us that much. All right, we're gonna get started. I'm gonna start with a question for you. The write-up on this event in the meetup promised to give you keys to crush it in your creative career. And so I want to back up. I want to ask a question. Why do you have a creative career? What is it that you're trying to accomplish? And to help you answer this question, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to think about your last, your logo, your design, your product, whatever it is that you do for a living. I want you to imagine you put it out there in the world and people saw it and did absolutely nothing. They felt nothing, they clicked nothing, they shared nothing, they forgot about it. Would that really be okay with you? I kind of doubt it. The reason that we're into these things, when brands and consumers meet, something's got to shift, something's got to change, because the point of marketing at all is to create action. Right? I told you I had a Matrix reference. Our ads, our designs, there's something like this. They're Keanu saying like, come with me into the Matrix. We're gonna have some fun together. And if you haven't accomplished that, you haven't made marketing, you haven't made advertising, you've just made wallpaper. Why do we forget this? Well, I'm gonna stand on this stage tonight in the year 2015 and tell you that right now, the internet is part of the problem. Okay, yeah, the internet is super smart, okay? But it's not smart like Einstein smart, it's kind of smart like Rain Man smart. Like, yes, you have a lot of data. There's no judgment involved in this. There's no insight involved in this. Now, I am old enough to remember when marketing directors knew they were wasting half their budgets. They knew it, and they did it anyway, because you know what? They didn't really have a choice. Well, today, to the year 2015, we have exactly the opposite problem. Okay? We're supposed to be omnipresent across all these different media channels, and each one of them shoots back 1 million different data points that we can measure and optimize in an almost infinite sort of way. Okay? I have some statistics here. I'm just going to read them for you really quick. Walmart handles 1 million transactions an hour. Facebook stores 30 petabytes of user-generated data, and Google was processing 20 petabytes of data a day back in 2008. Okay, it sounds like a lot, right? The truth is, I'm not entirely sure what a petabyte is. I just know it's super, super big. And I'm not here to crack on big. Like, big is powerful. It can help us make the right decisions in our creative careers here. But big can also be a really scary thing. Because big gives you the ability to sort of not see the forest for the trees. And big lets you talk yourself into doing all sorts of stupid stuff, because somewhere there's a number that you can probably find to back it up. And so the point of my talk is to show you how to use big data to create better creative materials so you can create action. And I'm going to start by covering 3 lies that data will tell you if you're not watching it carefully. The first lie that Pinocchio here is telling us is called n equals all. And this is basically just the idea that any large amount of data you have is necessarily representative of your customer base. And to explain this idea, I want to tell you a story. The story is going to take place in Boston. I haven't been to Boston in like 2 decades. I hear it's a great town, home to a lot of great things. American Revolution, Boston Red Sox, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, all good things. It's also the home to a really bad thing. It has a giant pile of snow that amasses over 9 freezing months out of the year. And the residents there just have to sort of stare at it for those 9 months. And if you go back a few years, Boston had a huge problem. Potholes. In fact, it had like thousands of potholes, and it wasn't Boston's fault. It wasn't the people of Boston's fault. It was the fault of that big, dirty pile of snow that sat there. Okay? Freezing and thawing, basically the snow goes away. You got a bunch of potholes all over the street. And Boston has tons of street teams running around trying to pave these things as fast as they can possibly find them. And when they're working that hard to do that, they don't really have time to actually find the potholes. They've got to rely on you. So the first thing they did is they set up a phone number. You're supposed to call the mayor's office, believe it or not. Hey, there's a pothole outside my house. This was not super well utilized. All right, so then they made an online form, and that was a step in the right direction, okay? But it still wasn't super well utilized, and so they came up with a solution. And it's a solution that as a sort of creative, technical person, I kind of suspect everybody in this room is going to look at and say, wow, that's cool. I'm going to introduce you to an app here. It's called Street Bump. Here's how this app works. When you get in your car, you have to download the app. It was made by the city of Boston. You get in your car, you turn it on, you put it on the passenger seat and drive around a bit. Every time you hit a bump, this app actually sends that information back to this enormous database of all the bumps in Boston. Okay? The database then algorithms crawl the database, and they compare all the bumps to, well, there's a stop sign there, so that's not a pothole, and there's a speed bump over here, so that's not a pothole, but, oh, this must be a pothole. Then they send someone out to fix it, right? Okay. It sounds brilliant, and I don't want to crack on Boston. They were trying something new, but this is a solution to the wrong problem. I want you to think about how this app actually works for a second. You got to be rich enough to own a smartphone. You got to have enough leisure time on your hands that you don't care about your battery life. And you got to be civic-minded enough to actually remember to download the damn thing, turn it on your phone, put it on your passenger seat, and drive around with it on. Okay, so Boston set out to create a comprehensive list of all the potholes in town. What they got was a comprehensive list of all the potholes in affluent, civic-minded, liberal areas of the city. Okay, I want to thank the Financial Times. They reported the story. It's really interesting, and again, this is a tremendous step forward, and Boston deserves praise for trying to do something cool. But we love this case study because it is a great example of the n equals all fallacy. When you amass a giant amount of data, it's easy to just assume, just because you've got so much of it, that data is necessarily exhaustive, or at least representative of your user base. How do you avoid this trap? Well, it's not just about collecting data. It's about knowing the sources of your data, where it comes from. Because n does not equal all. And I'm standing on the stage and on video tonight and telling everybody, size doesn't matter. All right, I'm gonna move on. Line number 2, this is called buy a pie. This is the idea that you can market to practically any cohort you can name, simply because you have a lot of data on this cohort. And we love this lie, because I can explain the whole thing using pizza, okay? We all work in a creative industry. There's probably a lot of late nights. You're sitting at your desk, you order a pizza, but there's someone from the studio team coming over and they're sort of snaking your pizza and taking off with it. So no matter how much pizza you think you want, you kind of always need more. Basically, you got two options. Option number one is to buy another pizza. You're ordering a medium pizza, you just buy a second one. But if you do the math on a real pizza order, it's almost always a better value to just get a bigger version of the thing that you already have. Now for pizza, it's because the circle increases with the square of the radius or something like that. A 16-inch pizza is 4 times as big as an 8-inch pizza. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that marketers have the exact same problem and they think the exact same way, except customers are their pizza. And no matter how many customers you have, you kind of always want more. And just like with pizza, you basically have two options. You can try to buy a new pie, or you can try to grow the one you already have. These days, the pie that everybody is after is these kids. It's the cool kids, it's the millennials, right? And everybody is trying to reach them. From the city of Columbus to Bailey's Liquor, it's kind of easy to see why. First of all, millennials are rich. $170 billion in purchases every year. Secondly, it's a huge cohort, right? There's 77 million of them. It's the largest cohort in US history. Third, they have sort of a disproportionate influence on the rest of our buying habits. It's probably because they sort of take pictures of everything they buy and Twitter them and Facebook them to their friends and put them on Instagram and text or whatever else. And probably because of that behavior, we also have a ton of data on millennials. I've heard people say, oh, I just don't know how to reach millennials. This is insane. Millennials like scream their location from the rooftops every time they leave their house. It's crazy. Look, we all have access to these numbers, but we're not all really successful at reaching millennials. You know who's good at it? These guys. And I want to explain why. About the same time that PBR decided they wanted to grow their customer base, which is this traditionally blue-collar sort of thing, they noticed something, and that was that there was this little cohort popping up that didn't really reflect their traditional customer base. We're going to call them bike messenger millennials, for lack of a better term. PBR saw this and said, that's a little slice of pie. We bet we can get more of it. They poured money into that little customer base. They did bike messenger rodeos, and they did obviously lots of awesome apparel and things like that. And you know what? It absolutely worked. This is PBR in 2004. This is PBR in 2013. They doubled their sales. But this is what we need to understand, okay? PBR did not just chase a new pie. They did not look at millennials the same way that many other marketers do and say, we got to go get us some of them. They were actually chasing a behavior and putting money into it, and that's why they were successful. The moral of this story is that when you have a huge volume of information, it's really easy to convince yourself, I can totally sell something to that guy. I know all about him. But it's not that easy. And unless you're going into a situation with your eyes wide open about the cost of acquiring a whole nother medium pizza, you might be better off just chasing a bigger version of the one you already have. All right, moving on. Third lie. This is called show what they know. And it's a little more specific in that typically the people who fall victim to this lie are people who have to sell a product that is already pretty well established, right? So it's burritos, it's cars, or it's vacuums. In the history of the vacuum, every single ad looked something like this. Someone was vacuuming, and the punchline was suction. This vacuum sucks the spots off a dog, and this one's gonna suck up a bowling ball. And we did all these ads about how vacuums should suck. And then they did consumer research, and they said, what do you want to vacuum? And everyone said, well, I think I want a vacuum that sucks. So we did a bunch more ads that said vacuums suck, which it sort of became like a vicious cycle of sucking. This is a super dangerous thing. Everyone in the vacuum space a few years ago was trying to differentiate using the exact same feature. I got Waldo up here. He's not like asking a brand new question. He's asking a slightly different question. Instead of where's Waldo, he's saying nobody ever asks how's Waldo, and the vacuum category was in pretty much the exact same less hilarious space a few years back. It was right for someone to come in and ask a slightly different question. And that person was these guys. And I bet as a creative audience, every single one of you guys can look at this picture with no logo and no name and tell me who this was. It was Dyson. Okay? Because Dyson was a new entrant to the category, and because they're freaking smart, never mind that F-bomb comment, they didn't just do the same research as everybody else. Instead, they asked their audiences, what do you hate about your existing vacuum? And they found out something kind of startling. You know what? Nobody wants anything out of a vacuum. It's kind of a stupid product. The only time that anybody actually thinks about their vacuum is when their existing vacuum breaks, and then suddenly people go just ape shit. They're talking about like broken hoses and spewing bags and all these things. They didn't want vacuums that sucked. What they wanted was vacuums that would never not suck. That was a different question, and it led Dyson to do work that was a little bit different.
There's a fundamental problem with vacuum cleaners. They may claim to be powerful, but in fact, after just a few rooms, they start to lose suction. My solution was a radical new technology which delivers constant suction. It's a unique patented system, separating dirt from air at incredibly high speeds. So, room after room, it never loses suction. Put simply, it's a completely different cleaning system. I just think things should work properly.
Very well shot. He has an awesome accent that I wish I had. I think it was actually the strategy and execution that helped Dyson do this. Within 1 year, this is 14 months' time, they went from here to become the #1 vacuum brand in America. Even more startling, they actually changed the price point at which you all are willing to pay for a vacuum. In 2003, 75% of consumers said they expected to pay less than $195 for a vacuum. Fast forward 14 months, 75% of consumers said they wanted to pay more than $195 for a vacuum. That is a huge increase in price. Now, a wise man once said, if you wait until the creative department gets the brief to start being creative, you have lost a huge opportunity. If you really want to arrive at a breakthrough solution, the most powerful chance you have to do that is by changing the question you have to ask from the very outset. All right, so those were the case studies. Hopefully we're all super scared of data right now. What are we gonna do, okay? It's not that hard. The first thing you have to do is ask the right question of your data. For instance, Boston wanted a comprehensive list of all the potholes in town. Dyson was trying to find a differentiator in a crowded market. And Pabst Blue Ribbon was trying to grow a customer base, increase sales. Just asking a simple problem statement before you start chomping at all these numbers is going to dramatically increase your chances of using them correctly. Secondly, you want to think a little bit about, well, what am I going to make and for who? At its simplest form, you can imagine every consumer in the world. Somewhere on this graph, you got your brand affinity here, that's whether or not they like you, and your potential value, lifetime value here, that's just how much money they basically have to spend. And as you can guess, some people just don't like you very much. Some people have a ton of value, but they don't like you yet. Some people absolutely love you, but you know what, they're kind of maxed out. They don't really have the money to buy a bunch more stuff. And of course, you have people who love you and who can and have and will continue to buy your product and spend quite a bit. Honestly, that's a segment that most marketers miss on. Now, for that first segment, your goal is really just to minimize your investment. Just by focusing the team away from these people and towards people who have a higher propensity to buy your product, that can be a better allocation of your marketing dollars. For people who already love you, but don't have much money left to spend, you might settle on something cheaper, like an email blast, or try to upsell them with a coupon. Now, for those people who have a lot of value left to give, but they don't like you very much yet, this is fertile territory. This is where brand agencies come into play, and this is where you should be thinking about things like online content series. You should be thinking about things like big, huge stunts in major media markets. You should be thinking about things like TV spots, for instance. And finally, you've got these people up here who, they love you, they're gonna keep spending money. The opportunity here is to take these people and turn them from brand loyalists to brand advocates. And you need to give them the tools to do so. So where social media and shareable content come into play. I flew through that super fast. IMM has a much sort of like more in-depth process they go through. The important thing to remember is that it's important to ask the question up front. Only then do you start the process of creating and measuring and optimizing. There's like this myth that the creative people like always want to think outside the box. Whoever said that was like an account person somewhere, okay? Like if you ask a real, genuine creative person to think outside their box, their brain would just explode. Like they'd have so many different ideas all of a sudden. The better you can define the box up front, the more you can liberate the team to chase a truly creative idea. All right, usually this is like the awesome part of the presentation because it's the big finale and the speaker gets to sit down and play a case study to show how smart he or she might be. I'm kind of screwed in this regard. Most of the things we work on, yeah, that's us, at IMM, there's some sort of proprietary technology or data that is driving it that I can't necessarily share tonight. So instead, true to the spirit of 99U, we are gonna make an idea happen. Here we go, we're gonna pick an industry to make things simple. We're gonna pick women's clothing. There is a whole lot of shipping that goes on, there's a whole lot of brilliant advertising that goes on, there's a whole lot of online ordering that goes on. Next, we're gonna pick a consumer. I'm gonna introduce you to somebody called Cindy. Say she's 40 years old, she makes somewhere between like $75,000 and $100,000 a year, so she's doing pretty well for herself. You know what? I don't give a crap because that is a demographic, it's not a behavior. Okay, so let's say we know something about Cindy. Let's say she actually buys 6 dresses, 2 pairs of pants, and 4 blouses every year. She buys them all online, she buys them all from us. Let's decide what we want to send Cindy. Do we want to send her a catalog? The answer is no. The answer is no. You're spending a ton of energy convincing her to do something she's already going to do. And worse, you're showing her what she knows from her online shopping habits. So what's the first step? Define the actual problem. If the problem is truly getting more out of Cindy, well, what's the data showed you? She spends a lot of money, she's got a full closet, she shops online, and she loves you. That puts her squarely in this upper right-hand sort of corner up here. So your goal here is to take Cindy, and you don't have to sell her anything. What you have to do is give her tools to start selling things to her friends. So here's what you're thinking about. What can we put online? What sort of shareable content can we stick in an email blast? All right. But maybe that's not the problem. Maybe the problem is growing the pie. Maybe the problem is you want more people just like Cindy. Well, that's that lower right-hand corner where you want incent for loyalty. But just because I use the word incent, don't like assume I'm talking about a coupon or anything quite like that. You can incent in all sorts of ways, whether it is through couponing or whether it is through just sort of emotions or leadership or giving her tools to give her behind-the-scenes scoop so she feels in the know. So you might think, well, maybe we'll produce a online hygiene content series that shows fashion trends coming in from different parts of the world and give that to Cindy so she can start sharing, give that to people so they start seeing you as a leader in the category. Or maybe the problem is Cindy's online, but you know what? Most people who look like Cindy are not online. All right, this is where I can see sending Cindy a catalog. We didn't design this, it's super beautiful. I stole it off the internet. Kudos to whoever out there actually designed the darn thing. It looks great. All right. So here's the thing, I read this story, a blog post a little while ago. It talked about how 90% of people in the world are completely disengaged from their day-to-day jobs. Just by virtue of the fact that you got in your car on your night off and you came here to listen to us talk, you prove that you are part of a lucky 10% that actually gives a shit about creating action and making your, affecting people with your work. That is an incredible trust, and if I did nothing else right, I hope I gave you something so that you can get more out of your work that you can take back to the agency, your client, wherever you're working tomorrow, and use. My name is Matt. On behalf of Kelly and IMM Boulder, I want to thank 99U. I want to thank Jen for setting this whole thing up. And most of all, I want to thank you guys for sharing your time with me tonight. Thank you so much.